Welcome to Triumph IAS. It's a daily mains practice question and answer series. This program is exclusively designed for UPSC CSE aspirants. In this video discussion, we will discuss UPSC CSE mains previous 25-year questions. Question number 1. Account for variations in oceanic salinity and discuss its multidimensional effects. Let's start with the introduction of the answer. The salinity of the oceans is controlled by evaporation and rainfall at Earth's surface. Global warming is making some parts of Earth's oceans much saltier while other parts are getting fresher. The main body of the answer should be Number 1. If the evaporation is more at a given patch of ocean, the concentrated of salts increases in the seawater, which results in higher salinity. However, in places that receives high rainfall, the water gets more diluted, resulting in low salinity. Number 2. Equatorial waters have lower salinity due to heavy rainfall and high humidity. Oceans lying between 20 to 30 degrees north and south have high salinity because of high temperature and low humidity. Similarly, oceans falling in temperate regions have lower salinity due to lower temperature and reduced evaporation. Oceans fed by large rivers like Amazon, Congo, Ganges, Mekong, etc. have lower salinity. Number 3. Melting of icebergs and resultant fresh water intake into Baltic, Arctic and Antarctic ocean waters makes them less saline. Change in the temperature or density influences the salinity of an area because salinity, temperature and density of water are interrelated. Number 4. Coral reefs, which are important for marine biodiversity, can thrive only in saline water. Evaporation is controlled by salinity of the oceans, thus the tropical cyclones, which are driven by evaporation, are indirectly controlled by salinity. Number 5. Salinity play important role in the formation and circulation of oceanic currents. Because of considerable salinity of ocean water, the plankton keep floating over the ocean surface. The conclusion of the answer is reduced salinity can endanger the survival of planktons, which can affect the entire marine ecosystem. Oceanic salinity therefore plays a crucial role in the survival of both marine and terrestrial life forms on Earth. Question number 2. From the resolution of contentious issues regarding distribution of legislative powers by the courts, principle of federal supremacy and harmonious construction have emerged. Explain. Let's start with the introduction of the answer. The first and foremost feature of Indian polity is that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and all state organs including parliament, judiciary, states, etc. are bound by it. They must act within the limits laid down by the Constitution. This is called as doctrine of constitutional supremacy. Moving on to the main body of the answer. Number 1. In the famous Keshwananda Bharati's case, a bench of 13 judges of the Supreme Court of our country declared that the supremacy of the Constitution was one of the cardinal features, or a part of the basic structure of the Constitution. Number 2. The Supreme Court reiterated the concept of constitutional supremacy in Minerva Mills' case, whereby the court held that government, legislature, and judiciary all are bound by the Constitution, and nobody is above or beyond the Constitution. Number 3. Every law made by the Parliament is subject to interpretation by Supreme Court in the light of the ideals and objectives of the Constitution, and if they are beyond or above that, they can be held null and void. Number 4. The doctrine of harmonious construction states that a provision of the statute should not be interpreted or construed in isolation but as a whole, so as to remove any inconsistency or repugnancy. Number 5. The doctrine of harmonious construction as a new technique of interpretation in this field was introduced in Hanif Qureshi Mohd v. State of Bihar, where the court invalidated a ban on the slaughter of all cattle on the ground that it constituted an unreasonable restriction on the right to carry on a butcher's business, as guaranteed by Article 19(1)(g), notwithstanding the directive under Article 41. The conclusion of the answer is However, it was stated that the Constitution has to be interpreted harmoniously, and the directive principles must be implemented, but it must not be done in such a way that its loss takes away or abridge the fundamental rights. Question number 3. Article 244 of Indian Constitution relates to administration of scheduled areas and tribal areas. Analyze the impact of non-implementation of the provisions of 5th Schedule on the growth of left-wing extremism. Let's start with the introduction of the answer. Article 244 of Indian Constitution deals with scheduled area and scheduled tribes. Article 244, 75 provision of 5th Schedule shall apply to administration and control of scheduled areas in every state other than Meghalaya, Tripura, Assam and Mizoram. The main body of the answer is number 1. Article 244, to provision of 6th Schedule shall apply to administration of control of tribal areas of Meghalaya, Tripura, Assam and Mizoram. Number 2, 5th Schedule deals with special provisions to accelerate the economic development for the underdeveloped areas inhabited by Aboriginal except Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. Number 3. It made governors the custodians of tribal right. They are mandated to oversee good governance, development, peace and tranquility in the area, and they are assisted by Tribal Advisory Council and required to make annual report to the President with recommendations. Number 4. Furthermore, no legislation would apply on 5th Schedule areas unless approved by the governors. Along with this are 275 made special grants in aid to these areas for economic development is also provided. But, at the same time, 5th Schedule was increasingly ignored and almost rendered in letter not in spirit. Governors' reports seldom reached the needs of these areas. If ever done, they were not properly deliberated in Parliament. Number 5. Lack of sufficient scheme implementation staff and lack of screening of legislation in these areas created a situation which gave rise to left-wing extremism in India, Naxalites. The conclusion of the answer is the inefficient implementation of 5th Schedule provision had led to huge outcry among Tiavanbilis in these areas. As a result, demand to out through state power over water, forest, land and mineral wealth has generated in the form of left-wing extremism. Major affected areas of LWE are Chhattisgarh, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, etc.